The Sparking Zero story mode for the most part is pretty easy. I mean, if you're pushing Z rank and you're fighting these insanely skilled players on the daily, or if you're at least just decent at this game, then I'm pretty sure a CPU is not going to be giving you any trouble. But for the rest of us who suck at the game, like me, then I'm pretty sure the story mode might have caused you a little bit of trouble. And so for this video, I wanted to talk about the top 5 hardest bosses in the entire Sparking Zero story mode. But before we do get into the video, I do want to clarify, this isn't like an official list or anything. This is just my personal opinion on who I think the hardest bosses are and the ones I struggle with the most. So if you have a different opinion than mine, then there's nothing wrong with that. So don't take this as like an official list or anything. This is just my opinion. Alright, with that out of the way, let's get right into the video. Alright, the first boss we're going to be talking about is the What If Ginyu Force boss battle. The funny thing about this boss fight was I actually didn't even know it existed before I started making this video. I originally wasn't even going to have a 5th place spot. I was just going to narrow it down to 4, but I figured a top 5 list would just be much better than just 4, because 4 is just kind of like an awkward number. So I started digging and doing a little bit of research. I was looking around just to see other people's opinions on who they thought the hardest boss fights were in the game, and it turns out a lot of people ended up saying that it was this fight, the Ginyu Force. So I found the story road path that you were supposed to follow in order to fight the Ginyu Force. I did the What If, I fought them, and yeah, I can definitely see why people struggle with this fight. So essentially the whole fight is basically a 1v5. You only get to play as Goku, and you have to beat the entire Ginyu Force with him alone, with no switches and no healing or anything else like that. I mean, if I'm being completely honest, this fight wasn't that difficult for me. I think I only got hit like a couple times, and then I basically just soloed the whole Ginyu Force without ever getting touched again. I mean, technically you can say my opinion doesn't really count, because at the time I was fighting this, I already had beaten the entire story mode. So I already was like very experienced with fighting just different types of bosses. So I've already gotten like all the possible experience you could get. So this fight wasn't really a challenge for me. But since this boss fight is so early game, I'm pretty sure there are going to be many people who just are lacking experience going into this boss fight thinking it's going to be easy, and they just get absolutely whooped. In order to beat this boss fight, there's 2 ways you can play it. You could either be really aggressive, which is what I did. I just kept going up to the Ginyu Force and just pummeling them, kick them around, and then I would eventually just do my super and just keep going back to charging up my sparking mode. The other way is you could play this defensively to try to conserve your health as much as possible, but honestly there's really no need. The reason is because the AI is really stupid in this fight. Like, there were so many times in this fight where the enemy would just go in the complete opposite direction of me and just give me all the time in the world to charge up to my sparking mode. And that's another reason why I had such an easy time with this fight, is because the AI wasn't, for me anyway, wasn't nearly as advanced as it is during like later fights in the game. Like, I'm telling you, the AI in this fight was completely brain dead at times. Like sometimes it would literally just sit there and just not even move and just basically give me a free sparking mode. But then again, I do understand why people struggle with this. A 1v5 is like not something to take lightly. That's still pretty difficult to do. Alright, that's gonna wrap it up for this boss. Let's move on to the next one. Alright, the next boss we're going to be talking about is Goku Black and Zamasu that fuse into Fusion Zamasu. Just like the Ginyu Force, there are multiple stages to this boss fight. The only difference being is there's only 3 enemies you have to beat instead of 5, and the fact that you're actually allowed to switch to another character this time. And the funny thing about that is, when I first ever did this boss fight, I had no idea that you were even able to switch. Like that, I know that little yellow icon tells you when you're able to switch and when you're able not to, but I didn't even know what that was. I'm telling you, I was literally the worst beginner ever. I was terrible. So I basically just soloed the whole boss fight with Goku alone, and that's honestly pretty impressive. You gotta give me that. First stage of the boss fight is definitely the easiest. You start off by fighting Zamasu. He's not that difficult to beat. Just make sure you're not losing too much health on the first stage of the fight, because remember, you have 2 more enemies to fight after this one. After you do get Zamasu low enough, he'll then switch over to Goku Black, who is much more aggressive and much more better defensively than Zamasu. There have been moments where Goku Black would just like literally pin me up against the wall and just beat my ass, and I couldn't even move or like fly away, because he would just keep going and going, and like I had no room to escape. So make sure you're trying to conserve your health as much as possible, and make sure to also get your sparking mode so you can actually stand a chance against Goku Black, because he's actually pretty difficult to beat. Once you do get Goku Black low enough, then you'll move on to the 3rd stage of the fight, which is by far the hardest. And when I first did this boss fight, I didn't even know they were going to fuse. I thought it was over, but then I saw the animation played and I got so scared, because remember, I was literally only doing this with Goku and I had like 1 HP left. So once Goku Black and Zamasu fuse, they turn into Fusion Zamasu, and they instantly get all their their health back. Fusion Zamasu is by far the most aggressive enemy during this fight. So make sure you're playing really good defensively, because once he gets you into a combo, he's pretty much not going to stop. This boss fight did take me a couple tries to do. I mean, to be fair, I was literally only playing with Goku, so of course I was going to have a hard time. But even if you do switch out to Vegeta, if you're not playing carefully, this boss fight could give you a lot of trouble. Now I know what you're thinking. What makes this boss fight harder than the Ginyu Force? There's less enemies to deal with, so why is this one harder? And mainly just boils down to the AI on this fight just being much more smarter and more aggressive than the Ginyu Force boss fight. I guess it just depends on certain bosses. Like the AI will just choose to be super dumb, and then like for another boss fight, it'll randomly just decide to lock in and beat your ass. But like I said, make sure you're ready to vanish and block, because the AI will definitely counterattack you and punish you if you're not playing carefully. But other than that, this boss fight is not too bad, but definitely one of the more difficult ones. Alright, that's gonna wrap it up for this boss. Let's move on to the next one. Alright, the next boss we're going to be talking about is none other than the infamous Great Ape Vegeta. Now I know a lot of you are probably already shocked to see Great Ape Vegeta only at number 3. But if I'm being completely honest with you, this fight is not that difficult. I know that's crazy to say, but just hear me out. This boss fight is honestly not that hard once you realize how predictable Great Ape Vegeta actually is. Now I'm not downplaying his difficulty at all when I say this. The only reason why I'm even saying this now is because I have fought him so many times that you eventually start to realize that his moves are pretty predictable. But if we're talking about 2 weeks ago when I first started the game, oh yeah, this is a completely different story. He completely beat my ass. It took me about like 2 hours to finally beat this boss fight, and I was on like a sliver of health when I did. And plus, it really doesn't help that I was playing like a complete idiot as well. I kept going right up to his face to attack him, which completely left me wide open for him to grab me, or to either do that one mouth blast that he does that knocks you back really far. I kept leaving myself wide open as well when I was charging up, so he often caught me with that little shoulder attack that he does. And to make matters even worse, I was barely even using my sparking mode. I forgot that was even a thing until like I looked up a tutorial on how to beat Great Ape Vegeta. I'm telling you, I had to be like the worst beginner ever. I was so ass. Plus there's also just like many techniques that I just didn't even know how to do. Like for example, when you're charging up and you double tap A on the controller to like instantly teleport behind an enemy, yeah, I didn't know how to do that. So what I was doing, I would literally just charge up and just fly directly at him, just completely leaving myself wide open most of the time. I think that's like the main reason why Great Ape Vegeta was so hard for me and so many other people, is because we just simply lack that experience. Like, you gotta think about it. Great Ape Vegeta is literally the 3rd boss you fight in the game. I'm literally fresh out the womb, still learning the controls, and then you throw me to like one of the hardest bosses in the entire game. Like, of course I'm gonna lose. But once I revisited this boss fight for this video to get footage, I kind of realized how easy this boss fight actually is. I beat him first try without a sweat. He did get a good couple hits on me, but I did manage to beat him first try. Like I was saying before, you just start to realize how predictable his moves actually are. For example, like at the beginning of every fight, he's most likely going to super you or charge at you and do that little shoulder attack. So make sure you're holding the block button or just dodge out of the way really quickly. Or like when he's just sitting there charging up, he's probably going to surprise you and do that little shoulder attack. So make sure you're ready for that as well. Or even when you're attacking him from the front, just expect him to grab you or do that mouth blast. So just teleport behind him and just start hitting him from the back. Like I said before, most people who struggle on this boss are just starting off playing the game and they have no idea how to use the controls, or they're just getting used to it. So of course you're going to lose to this boss fight a couple times. It's inevitable. But once you start playing it a couple times and just start getting that experience, this boss fight is honestly pretty easy. Alright, that's all I gotta say about Great Ape Vegeta. Let's move on to the next boss. Alright, next boss we're going to be talking about is Vegito Blue. Okay, I don't know what Vegito's problem was with me during this fight. He must have popped the fusion fuel or some shit before we started throwing hands, because he beat the absolute shit out of me. The ass beating he was giving me honestly felt personal, because some of the moves that he was doing to me like should have had me on Live League. Like, this was a murder. The beatdown was so bad he made it canonically accurate. Like, what the hell? I mean, to be honest, I really don't blame Vegito. He got packed up like 3 times by Zamasu during this whole story, so I'll be pretty pissed off too. So this is another what if boss fight, and in order to unlock the what if, you have to beat Vegito as quickly as you can as corrupt as Zamasu. If you did manage to beat him, then you're rewarded with the what if, where Zamasu chokes the life out of Vegito and kills him. And I thought this fight was going to be light work, because I have already fought Vegito Blue as the regular Zamasu, and that was easy as hell. But no, Vegito made it his life goal to make sure I was not winning and getting that what if. One of the things that made this fight just so difficult was just how damn aggressive he is. Like, you practically get no breathing room to charge or even think about your next attack, because once he attacks you, he's just comboing you to oblivion and pushing you against the wall, throwing you up into the damn sky, and just like kicking you around like it's your like literally he would kick me around a couple times and then Dragon Rush right behind me and just do it again. And even if I tried to vanish and counterattack, he would just vanish and counterattack me instead. Like, that's another thing that made this fight so difficult too, was his defenses were on point. And even if you do manage to get your sparking mode and try to sneak up behind him, he'll either just dodge out of the way or just counterattack you and then just keep comboing you until you die. Like, this boss fight is actually pretty difficult. And like I was saying before, he was giving me some nasty combos. He would knock me around and then he would actually combo into a super. Like, this honestly felt like I was fighting a real player. I mean, I may be exaggerating this a little bit. Again, I am terrible at this game, and I honestly cannot play defensively to save my life, so I only know how to just be offensive. But still, I have to find myself redoing this a lot of times, because this was actually kind of insane. And out of all the bosses we're going to talk about in this fight, even the number 1 spot, this AI felt the most advanced it's ever been. But yeah, Vegito Blue definitely got his get back. I felt the anger and hatred he had towards me through every one of those kicks and punches. Alright, that's gonna wrap it up for Vegito Blue. Let's move on to the final boss fight. Alright, the last fight we're going to be talking about is the What If Piccolo versus Third Form Frieza boss fight. Fuck this boss fight, bro. I'm getting pissed off even looking at this shit while I have to edit it. The thing about this fight that pisses me off the most is that it's not even hard at all. In fact, out of every fight we've talked about on this list, this fight is the easiest. I could beat this shit with my eyes closed if I really wanted to. But the thing that makes this fight just so stupid and annoying is that in order to unlock the What If, you need to defeat Frieza within a given amount of time. But the thing is about that is the amount of time you're given is so small. You basically can't kill him. It's impossible. I think out of any timed boss fight in the game, this fight is the shortest. Without a doubt, actually. No, this is the shortest boss fight. There's no way. So at the beginning of the boss fight, you start off by fighting Second Form Frieza, and that's easy. Like I said, this fight is not hard at all. So you get Second Form Frieza to a certain amount of health, and then Frieza will start monologuing, and then he'll go into his third form. And as soon as he transforms, you need to beat Frieza as fast as you can, but for some reason, I can't fucking do it, bro. It's literally impossible. And people seem to agree with me too. Like I said, I've done my research and I looked on YouTube. I looked at this boss fight and like read the comment section of somebody playing this boss fight. And the comments were saying like, this is the hardest What If to get in the game. And the time you're given is just so short for no reason. And I completely agree. But the thing that pisses me off the most about this is that I've actually managed to get his health to 0 twice. But the thing is, there's a certain dialogue that Frieza will say before the boss fight comes to an end. So if Frieza says that and you still don't kill the boss fight before he finishes up his dialogue, it doesn't register as a win. And even after all the experience that I've gained, I can't do it. It's just so irritating that I've been able to beat every boss fight in the game and I've been able to unlock every What If in the game, and I can't do this one. It's just so stupid. But even after all the trials and the struggles, I did finally manage to beat it. The best advice I have for this boss fight is when you start off the fight, when you're fighting Second Form Frieza, make sure he hits you a couple of times so you have a few bars ready for your sparking mode. Because this Piccolo is one of those characters where if you have 3 bars ready, he can instantly get a sparking mode. So make sure you get hit a couple times, because you want to be able to have your sparking mode as soon as this Frieza transforms, because you need to kill him immediately. And after all the struggle, I was finally able to get my hands on that What If. Psych! Oh, you thought it was over? Yeah, so did I. So right after you struggle your ass off with this fight, you have to fight Frieza again. But guess what? He's in his final form this time, who is even more faster and stronger and aggressive than last Frieza form. And to top it all off, this is also a time fight as well. I wish you guys could have seen my face when I saw that shit for the first time, bro. Where I had to fight Frieza again in his final form, and it was also a time boss fight. I just closed the game. I didn't even want the What If at that point anymore. It's not even worth it. But with that, that brings us to the end of the video. Like I said before, this isn't an official list or anything. This is just my opinions on the boss fights that I personally struggled with. So if you guys had any specific boss fights that you struggled with, go ahead and leave it in the comments, because I do want to see what kind of bosses you guys had trouble with. But other than that, I hope you guys did enjoy. Make sure to like, sub up, put up noties, and hope you have a blessed day, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.